all looking at me saying, what are we going to do? So no one has the answer, firstly. Wish I did. But all we can do is to keep moving forward and keep working. And we don't like sitting around. We're hospitality workers. So for us to say, oh, everyone go home, have a long weekend is all good, but you can't just watch. You can't watch it burn. You've got to do something. You've got to keep working.
Today on Dirty Linen, we are heading to Brisbane, which is in the midst. We don't exactly know where the middle is, but they're in a lockdown. Mooted for 3 days at the start of the week and potentially lifting today. We'll soon find out. The lockdown has coincided with the end of JobKeeper. It's also Easter, a busy holiday period. The consequences are pretty crushing for hospitality businesses. We're talking today to Jerome Dalton, who runs a Brisbane-based catering and events business and is certainly well positioned to talk about where things are at. So, Jerome, thanks for coming along to have a chat. How are you going?
Good. Yeah, as well as can be expected up here. It's been a difficult week or difficult year. It's when you start saying it's been a difficult year, it's a long time to endure this sort of stuff, for sure.
Yeah. Tell me about the impacts of this lockdown.
So this one's a little bit different, I guess, to the others because of a few reasons. The first is end of JobKeeper anniversary of the same day. That we went into lockdown again. The second is it was kind of we didn't see it coming. It looked like there was going to be no great issue. And so look, for the effect for most people is the same as last time. We've got no support in industry. We've got no backup. We've all just reinvested again, which I guess puts on top of it as well. I guess it's the same in Melbourne. It's the same anywhere else who's had this. But we particularly we hate the word pivoted, but we did. We reinvested sort of every cent we've ever had, all our savings, took a huge punt on the back of the government sort of saying, this is what you should do and that we'll support you through JobKeeper. And that was really good, and it's really allowed us to make some change. We started a little charcuterie business and sort of just starting that running and a pasta company as well as our sort of high-end catering company. And then come this sort of happens again, we don't have any more backup. We don't have any more leeway and we don't have any more ability to keep fighting. So we feel a little bit, all of us are a little bit disappointed, I guess, that people are saying it's okay, that everything's going to be okay, that the economy is okay. So even just prior to this lockdown, just those few cases have an impact, and we start to lose money. We start to put off casual employees. Our customers cancel; they won't rebook. So this one, I mean, how's it different? I guess for us is people don't want to rebook. We're getting our big banks and our big customers and our corporates saying, hey, Jerome, just to let you know, we're going to disengage you. There's no point doing this anymore. We've cancelled 4 times. We've postponed 3 times. I'm really sorry, but at least we know now the rest of this year we're not doing any events. And that's pretty consistent throughout public and corporate, So it's our industry is in a world of trouble up here.
That's really crushing to hear that. I mean, I suppose, in some ways, especially last year, from the Victorian perspective, Queensland seemed to be living the post-COVID dream. Businesses had reopened. I was hearing that customers were spending. Of course, catering and your exposure to the corporate market is going to be different to that more public-facing regular restaurant experience. Brisbane is now level with Melbourne, hey, on 3 lockdowns. I mean, you had another one in January. So I guess when you keep getting these blows, it's harder to recover each time.
For sure. And there's a lot of peripheral stuff in that as well, that like our industry's lost a lot of its professionals. A lot of people have walked away from industry, and you can't really blame them. I mean, I've a very good friend and my head chef for a few years sort of just, wanted to get out. We can't find good qualified staff anymore. The training is not good. And how do you tell people to get into this industry? I mean, I have 2 children. would I sit there today and say you should become a hospitality professional? It'll be good for you. Like, very hard call. So I mean, based on the last 12 months, if not the years before that. So having a lack of staff, a lack of quality staff, and good training and support from government is affecting the industry across the board. So the restaurants have all been back open. We've shown some really good signs of a strong economy over the past few months. So everybody's saying luxury car market, the retail's been really good, but our industry has been struggling for a long time. There's been a massive oversupply of sites in Queensland, and that's due to if you build a building, your DA approval did insist that you have to have ground floor retail. So every time we build a new high rise, we've got another 40 shops underneath it that are vacant. So of course that means that everyone tries to open a cafe, or the developers give them money to do so. So we've had a massive oversupply of locations. We've had an undersupply of staffing, and then we've gone into COVID. So our situation, as opposed to the other states, and I'm not sure if that's consistent across Australia, but certainly we had some big problems before we went into this in restaurants and cafes. And coming out of it, I mean, it could take 6 years before we start getting trained professionals back into our industry, if we can encourage them at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, there's so much in what you're saying. There are so many different strands to unpick, but I think that oversupply and that that notion that every new development needs a cafe or two, I think that's a national phenomenon. And I think, around the country, I think people would agree that in the big cities that there's definitely been an oversupply and that some kind of correction was warranted. But of course, nobody expected it to come like this, and nobody expected it to come with these rolling waves of closures that, as you say, you restructure, you do everything that, you're advised to do, and then you're whacked again. And I think it's also that intersection between the different jurisdictions, vaccinations, which may have helped prevent this lockdown, are mostly a federal responsibility. It's the state that makes the call on the lockdown, but it's the federal government that pulls JobKeeper out. I mean, it's pretty hard to know where to turn to ask for assistance and change as well, I imagine.
Absolutely. I think that's another really good point, that it's not gone unnoticed that our local government and federal government are at odds, and it really feels like being the child of a broken family up here. Mum and dad are not getting along well, and both of them are saying it's the other person's responsibility whilst the child's not getting fed. So we're really struggling to sort of understand why. I mean, personally, I think, as you mentioned, the vaccine is being rolled out. So in my simple mind, and I'm not a doctor, if we have an end date to this, if we have a vaccine rolling out, and if somebody, which I imagine, because I'm in business, somebody's done the projections, because that's what we do in business, and I would like to think our government's doing it as well. So if we've done the projections on how long it would take to roll out a vaccine, we can see an end to this. Why are we pulling the rug out so early? Why are we stopping JobKeeper now? Is it true the vaccine's going to roll? Is it true that things are going to get back to normal? And can we put a date on that? And if so, why wouldn't we coincide that date with this financial support that we've had for the last 8 months? So it doesn't make any sense to me that I've got a casual, James, who just rang me before and said, mate, I really need some work. I had $800, 35 hours booked this week. I've lost all of that, as everyone has up here. We've lost a lot of money. I can't pay my rent. Now, what's he supposed to do? He was on JobKeeper last week. He's not this week. So he goes to the dole queue, and it's not, these are people with families. They're real hospitality professionals. I know James has been in the industry for 20 odd years. I feel so sorry for these people that are victims of this decision to not support the Australian people anymore. And I think, personally, I've paid, 31 years in the industry with multiple businesses across that time, and a qualified chef. I paid millions in taxes and contributed many millions of dollars to the hoppers. That's my money. That's our money, and that's James's money. Why isn't he getting help? He's not sitting around not wanting to work. He wants to work. He's doing everything he possibly can, but the situation is preventing him from working. So therefore he becomes the responsibility of those people that we pay to govern us, in my opinion. And I just don't understand why they would let all of us fail this close to the finish line, if there is a finish line.
I just cannot find any fault with that. I mean, there is no winner from James going off to Centrelink to line up for a job seeker payment that nobody can live on.
No, and he wants to work, but he just can't at the moment. That's all. It's not. So this is no fault of our own. I mean, James decided on an industry that's difficult, and, so did I. We're used to working hard. I do 80 hours a week constantly for my whole life. It's not that we're afraid of working or that we don't want to pivot or that we won't do what we need to do. It's just right now we can't, and we need that support from government.
I know that James won't be alone in that position. So a statistic that I saw said that 27,636 businesses and not-for-profits in the Brisbane area were receiving JobKeeper at least at the end of January. And I'm assuming that, most of those businesses would have continued to, need that payment to keep paying their workers. So there are going to be a lot of people hurting this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other consideration is that with that JobKeeper allowed us that I guess it just allowed us that little bit of security that we didn't have to keep moving forward. So in my business, today we're having a photo shoot. We're spending another few $1,000s we don't have as we write, the monthly $9,000 rent check with a total weekly income of $400. We're reinvesting to try and pivot again to get ready for this lockdown that I think is probably coming to put together a drive-through lasagna, service. So hiring, red carpets and hiring. Well, actually, they've been given to us from AV Ideas, so really helpful. But just getting all our friends together, getting photographers in and putting together this new product literally overnight, working 24 hours a day on our marketing. And we've done this for a year now to roll out a new product tomorrow ready for a COVID lockdown so that we can have some income. The JobKeeper allowed us a little bit of time to do that because at least some of our staff were being paid. And even if there was nothing on, we could say, guys, what can we do? So it kept us in work, which is what it was there for, right? As my understanding, exactly what it was there for. It kept us in work. So, I mean, this talk of people rorting the system and stuff, I mean, that happens everywhere. That's not the point. That's not my problem or yours, and it's not James's problem. Having that basis of income allowed those staff to do stuff, to bake bread, to come up with new products, to clean and reset, and just to be at work and feel like they're doing something and trying to push forward and trying to be positive and trying to keep moving in this 1 year of downtime. Once we don't have that, we can't afford to pay those people to come in and try and pivot our business or to try and find another angle or to get ready for the next thing. It means we're on our own. We have nobody anymore. Those people are at home. So we don't get to change again. We don't get that support. And I think that's the crazy thing, taking away that as well.
Well, I think the mental impact on you as leader and employer and on the employees that are sitting at home rather than being occupied and busy must be significant as well.
For sure. I mean, that meeting we had, yesterday morning or the day before, wherever it was in my office with 5 guys, just all looking at me saying, what are we going to do? So no one has the answer, firstly. I wish I did. But all we can do is to keep moving forward and keep working, and we don't like sitting around. We're hospitality workers, so for us to say, everyone go home, have a long weekend is all good, but you can't just watch. You can't watch it burn. You've got to do something. You've got to keep working. And then that's been really successful for us. We've opened 2 new fledgling businesses that are both, super high quality, handmade, good stuff, and really proud of those. And they're coming along really well. And JobKeeper helped us do that because whilst our business was at, almost zero, we got to focus on pivoting. Use the word, I hate it, but so it's a thing, and so it's really, for me, it's just really crazy that we're in this position right now, and it's almost like if you want to spotlight how crazy it is, we've just had another lockdown. It's not gone away yet.
So I mean, we're talking Wednesday morning. The Premier's just spoken. There's been no announcement about whether or not the lockdown whether or not it will be lifted on Thursday evening as, and that would be the 3 days that was initially announced. I just can't imagine your mindset where you're planning for this drive-through lasagna business, but also perhaps if things reopen, you're going, back to what you were doing last week. I mean, how do you keep all these balls in the air? How do you keep these various different thoughts in your head?
It's amazing what you can get done when you're in fight or flight mode. I mean, I've Antrim in our office who's doing the sort of marketing and putting this stuff together. I've just never seen anything like it. It's possible to pull together a really good professional photo shoot with models and lighting and moving lights and music and vintage cars and red carpet in less than 24 hours if you have to. But do we have to? I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow. It's mad, isn't it? And investing our own money again and our own time and just having another punt. I don't think anyone understands the mental stress of that, the physical, emotional. I mean, I feel like I've got PTSD from last year, and I'm not joking, and I'm not putting. I'm not trying to sound like, people with PTSD. I'm not trying to sort of, minimise that or whatever. I'm just, when I see the health officer's face on television, I feel sick. I honestly feel my guts churn and I feel sick and I feel like vomiting. And that's just quite a few of us just trying to figure out, we were buying takeaway containers at 10:30 at night online a few months ago when the Prime Minister told us to go to takeaway tomorrow morning. It's like we don't have 2 weeks to turn that around. It means we have to do it tomorrow morning. And that's what happened again this week. So we woke up to find out that our events were all cancelled that week. Spent the entire day talking to customers, assuring them that we weren't going to keep their money and, doing the right thing, whilst trying to cancel staff and to keep them in the loop. And then, it's hard because everyone looks to us and says, what's going on? I mean, one of my customers said, maybe we can postpone. How long do you think it'll be before we're able to dance again? Really? You're asking me this? I said, gosh, I wish I could tell you when we could open again. So, it all rests with us somehow. And that's a huge weight financially and emotionally, definitely.
Well, it is. And I know we've been living in this scenario in one way or another for more than a year now. But if you just pull back and think that a client is asking you, when will we be able to dance again? I mean, that's just actually an absurd and crazy question. I mean, who ever thought that we would be in this situation where we had to wonder whether or not we were allowed to dance? Yeah,
exactly. Or even have that event. It is.
Yeah, whether you're allowed to have an event, whether you're allowed to gather. And I think, I'm sitting here in Melbourne. We had a lockdown in February. I think we tried to put that behind us as fast as we could. And I think for myself, when I heard about the Brisbane lockdown, it's taken me a couple of days to reach out to, yourself, to someone in Brisbane to talk about it, because I think I'm stressed and traumatized by the very idea of another lockdown. And I think what it shows us is that we are all still vulnerable until we are all vaccinated. And we just aren't vaccinated. So we're very vulnerable. And I just don't think that I can deal with that.
No, I don't think anyone can. And that vulnerability comes in different ways as well. I mean, for me personally, I'm not concerned about my health or that of my children or many people around me at all. My 95-year-old grandmother, yes. But the vulnerability is more than just that. It's the vulnerability of, you don't feel well when you lose your family, your home either, or when we were cancelling our insurances and downgrading our policies and getting rid of our health insurances and just figuring out where we're going to live this time a year ago. I'd been over in Vanuatu. I've got a family I look after over there, charity-wise, and I took them over a heap of fishing gear and bits and pieces and flew back to Australia to find that I was in 14 days quarantine on the very first day with people with masks and making me sign documents and watching my entire business fold, like $200,000 worth of forward bookings in 24 hours whilst I was stuck in my office. And that's over a year ago for me. This is not small stuff, and I think for anyone who sits back and goes, oh, it'll be okay, we can get through this together, it really makes me angry, because we're not all in this together. Some of us are really suffering from different ways, whether that be physically, mentally, financially, the children, all that stuff is different. So I just think it's our community as human beings' responsibility to look after people when things are not going right. And I don't think we're doing that in hospitality and other industries as well. I know tourism, a friend of mine runs Lady Musgrave Experience. up north, and you can only imagine what they're doing today. Do we have people? Are nationals coming? Are they coming from Sydney? This is supposed to be a peak time, and they're running 3 boats and employing God knows how many people, and the overheads have been incredible. And just to miss an entire season of tourism,
another one,
yeah. But are we missing it? Are we not missing it? Well, based on that, the little cross we just watched on Facebook Live, no one knows still. And I'm not saying that's their fault, but what I'm saying is it's not okay for that business to go down or for those people to lose their jobs. We can afford to support people until it's over, and we need to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's not enough to give people half-price flights to somewhere that they're not there, is it?
They can't go to. That's a classic, isn't it? Yeah.
It's not a solution.
No. Or reducing the tax on income that you're not going to have because you don't have any income was another classic.
It's very arm's length, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's written by people who have never been affected or aren't affected by these things. I'd love to see them get out and have a look and talk to people.
Jerome, how's that family in Vanuatu going? What's the COVID situation over there?
They've been pretty lucky. You wouldn't want to be in tourism there. But my friend's family, we went over and my 2 daughters met a little local girl and instantly became friends. And they couldn't speak the same language, of course. And she just moved in with us for 2 weeks when we were on holidays. And since when we go over there, we take her with us to other islands. And so we kind of just look after them when we can afford to. When their dad is doing a hard job and they've got a disabled child and 4 other kids, and so they're always doing it hard, but they live on an island where I guess you don't have to have as much money to survive. So I can't imagine how the tourism is going over there. I would say obviously it's zero, and how they're surviving would be anyone's guess, but these guys are in sort of fishing or they fish for a living in a little boat, so they're doing okay. They're just messaging us saying, when are you going to come and see us again? What's going on over there? Why can't you come? When can we come over? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, hopefully the Pacific Islands to a large degree have done really well with COVID.
Yeah.
And hopefully when we do get to open some bubbles, you'll be able to go to Vanuatu.
Well, I don't think we'll be going anywhere for a while. We've everything we've got is in these businesses, so we're ready to knuckle down and wanting to get on with it, but just keep getting this. It's more than a speed hump. But yeah, it'd be nice to get away for a little while for sure. They've been very lucky, I think. Considering they had cruise ships coming through the terminals in Vanuatu every day leading up to that, I'm not sure how they escaped this.
Wow, that is a scary thought.
Almost as many people as are on the island would have gone through there in the 3 weeks prior.
Wow.
It's interesting.
Jerome, I know that you're in touch with so many chefs working in very many different businesses in Queensland. What are some of the things that Queensland chefs are saying?
Joe, I asked that question on a forum that we have, over 700 just qualified chefs that are working in the Brisbane area. The resounding answer is training apprentices. Everyone's affected in the same way through COVID, and everyone's wondering if they're getting paid and wondering if their super's in, and those that are employers are the same as me, and those that are employees are the same. But overwhelmingly, everyone is saying our training is rubbish, and we've got some really great RTOs up here. One, particularly ICE, which has really good chefs working and training really, really well. But overall, there is a resounding we don't have any trainees. No one's coming through the industry. We can't find anyone. What's going to happen to us? What's going to happen to this industry? And it takes 5 years to turn that ship around. If you rush it 3, if you rush it, you don't get good results. So the last few years, again, we've been having issues with trainees just being pushed through, with everyone just getting signed off. It just not being trained properly, and the funding not going to the right places. So I think, like I said before, if either of my daughters said they wanted to be a chef, I couldn't, in all good conscience, encourage that. So what they're saying is that we need good people, and good people and smart people have left this industry. in droves.
Well, I mean, you say it's going to take 5 years to turn the ship around, but that's only if somebody steps on it, day one, right?
Absolutely, if it happens today. Yeah, so we are getting some support with apprentices, but they're not getting support. So we're getting a little bit. It still doesn't. I mean, if I take say a 15 or 16-year-old, let's say it was me when I was a kid, so a kid from the wrong side of the tracks who had a little authority problem and was a hard worker but didn't really know what they wanted to do with themselves, and I turn that person into a solid apprentice chef and give them a career. That doesn't happen easily. That's a lot of work. Our guys have so much support forever. I'm in touch with almost all of my apprentices over the years still. Everything from moving house to lending them money to being there when their relationships fail. It's not just in hospitality, it's not just put someone in a job and then they end up qualified. It's a huge thing. And for an employer to take that on and train someone properly and support that apprentice through is quite expensive and time consuming if you get the right one. So really just saying, you get $1,200 at the end of 6 months is just... It doesn't. It's a love job. There's no one. Most chefs are saying they don't want apprentices. It's not worth it. So yeah, if you're right, if someone really stepped on that today and made a change, yeah, we might be 4 or 5 years away from seeing that come through. If they keep letting us fail, there'll be no problem.
Well, the industry. I mean, people need time and resources to put that work in to bring those apprentices through at a good standard and to, as you say, nurture them in those, young years when they really need mentors. And when everybody is so stretched and stressed and doesn't have those buffers to help them through, then it's really hard to see a circumstance where somebody can invest in apprentices. For sure.
Their training becomes less and less effective at work and on at the RTO if no one's investing. Now, we send ours to a certain, to Institute of Culinary Excellence because I know those guys and I know they care. I know them as chefs. But across the board, it seems like all the money's going into the top end of town. And I'm not going to mention names, but the bigger training organisations who own whole buildings in the city, they're not looking at the big picture. I think the problem again is that no one's looking at the small guy. That we don't have a voice. We don't have enough clout to try and make those changes because we can tell them how it's supposed to be on the ground floor. We've got people on the ground, but they talk to the wrong people. They really just need to understand how it works and make a difference from a ground level perspective, and I don't think anyone's been doing that for quite some time. Training's been terrible. The financial incentives have been a joke. I mean, they used to get knife kits and stuff, and then everyone was, oh no, people are selling them online and all this. Went, whatever. We've got bigger problems than someone selling their apprentice knife kit online. We're talking about billions of dollars of industry. You don't see the building industry not getting, oh look, someone dropped a hammer, so we're going to cut the funding. Come on. It's just mad. We really need kids to come into this industry. We really need professionals to come back to it. To do that, they need to be paid properly. We need to understand that they shouldn't have to work 90 hours a week for stupid money. Why are they not treated like every other industry? Well, it seems like we're almost the last industry left that is expected to work in ridiculous, uncomfortable, dangerous positions for 80 hours a week and not be paid for it. And I'm an owner. I'm not a chef. I'm a chef by trade, but I think it's wrong too. I'm not screaming like unions and let's the employer is the bad guy, because I am the employer and I give my guys the best I possibly can. But I can promise everybody, it's not easy to give anyone anything more. I'd love to pay my guys more. I'd love to. It's not easy because it's not there. It's really tough. Taxes are high. The inputs are crazy. Licensing's crazy. We're getting, we've had the foot of the government on our necks for a long time, and we've just been expected to deal with that and keep paying tax and keep paying people properly. And it's not there. The margins are, at 7% often across the board. There's no other industry that works on that. The costs are, anyone who ever does the figures on a hospitality business, I just don't know why people get into them. But there are ways to fix this, and it needs to be fixed, and just letting it work itself out is not one of them.
Well, I think a lot of people would take 7% too that are in the industry at the moment, because I think there are a lot of people doing it even leaner. I think it's to me, it's really odd that, hospitality is such a front-facing industry, and, as a country, we're supposedly so proud of it, proud of what we can offer to the world, great cuisine, great produce, fun places to eat. It just seems such a disconnect between this shiny front face that is supposed to be so glorious, and then this back end that you're talking about, this supply chain that is so broken.
Yeah, it is a complete disconnect. And I think the problem with that is front-facing or smiling. People think it looks busy. I mean, work out a coffee at $3.80, work out the cost of that. And then when you see people lining up to buy coffee, tell me, once you've done the maths, tell me that place is kicking ass. It seems good because it's busy and humming and everyone's smiling, and you don't go out there and tell the truth, that's for sure. Our industry's never told the truth. We've always smiled. We've always, all of the chefs I know at the highest of ends that I talk to on a daily basis are struggling with why we do this, why are we stressed, why are we not getting margin. You'd know their names, everyone knows, all of us, we're successful in industry, we're at the top of the chain, and I can tell, I'd be happy to open my books any day of the week and everyone would be very surprised at how lean we're running. So why? Yeah, I think it's that we've been trained to smile and be hospitable, and it's also because we don't have a direct relation to the peripherals, like I guess tourism being the biggest one. I mean, we cook for government, we cook for the politicians, we cook for the wealthy. We did three billionaires in 1 week in our business a few months ago at their homes and events. We look after all these people on the front, but no one's looking after us. So, why is a really good question. I can't answer that, except that it's not direct. We don't see a direct result from hospitality. It's like the 101 percenters that make up the whole. We're losing a lot of them, but people don't see the whole yet. Yeah.
Jerome, I'd love to talk more about this when you're out the other side of this particular crisis, because there's so much to talk about, and you've obviously, you're deep in it and you really care about it. So let's talk again. I wish you all the best with the current situation. I don't even know what I'm wishing. I guess we're wishing for an end of lockdown, but if you're still locked down, I hope lots of people drive through for lasagna.
Thank you.
Whichever way it goes, power to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, look, it's just we just need to survive until such time as we can get back to normal, and normal's not that easy either. It's hospitality, but that's all we're asking. Yeah.
Well, take care.
Yeah,
thanks for chatting.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
Cheers.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about. We spend a week thrashing around each issue, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinenat deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This